Marc D'Amico, Celtics in-house analyst and a reporter. Marc, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Season's coming in, so I can't complain, right? We're all getting geared up for what really matters here. I'm ready for the summer to be over.
Yes, I think we are all in agreement there. It's been what feels like a really long off season, and I don't know if it's just because we got spoiled last year with all the Kevin Durant drama that was going on during the off season. But yes, we are all very excited for this upcoming season. I want to get your thoughts on just kind of what your expectations are for the Celtics this year with all the moves that were made in the off season.
Yeah, I mean, I think expectations every season here in Boston are the same. It's compete for championships, be in the mix, try to bring Banner 18. And some years it's not realistic. I think last year, the year before, this year, it is realistic, right? Like this team is built to compete. I thought what they did during the offseason really upgraded the top of their roster, and that's not saying anything negative about Marcus Smart. He brings a lot to the table, but you bring in a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, and you just up the ante in terms of talent that can take over a game during a postseason. And so I think that it's championship. I wouldn't say championship or bust, but those are definitely the expectations here in Boston, is that they're going to be in the mix. Now, every year, as you guys know, you went to the finals a couple years ago, you need a little bit of luck. You need things to roll your way. That doesn't happen every year. But if you're in the mix, you at least give yourselves a shot. And I think that's what the team thinks they did during the offseason.
You know, obviously, we could talk about the moves, but, Jaylen Brown obviously is going to be a huge part of this. How have you seen his development? Now he's got the big contract. He's got rewarded for that. What are the level of expectation for the Celtics in terms of not only his leadership, but also Jayson Tatum's leadership as you guys move forward? Because without Marcus Smart in the mix, that was a big, heavy leadership, chip that you guys just lost.
Yeah, I think you said it right there, right? Like Marcus Smart was the leader. He was the longest tenured Celtic. Now the longest tenured Celtic is the guy you just mentioned, Jaylen Brown, which is that blows my mind that Jaylen Brown is the longest tenured Celtic now, but that's what it is. And so with Marcus Smart not here anymore, I actually think this is part of the calculated, and I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine this is part of the calculated decision-making that was going through Brad Stevens' mind on draft night. Am I going to make this trade? Am I not? I think part of the positive is that, it's no good to lose Marcus Smart. But without him here any longer, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown have to step into that leadership role. And they have been leaders in their own way over the past few seasons, but this just opens the door wide open for them to be the leaders of this team. So I think they both know and they both understand that those expectations are here now. We're going to hear them talk about it in the next couple of weeks on Media Day, but everyone expects them to up the ante from a leadership perspective. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be screaming at people on the court or whatever it is. That's not necessarily who Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are. But I think that they will be speaking a little bit more than they have been, maybe behind closed doors. And maybe you do see a little bit of a nudge out there on the court where they are a little bit more vocal. But I don't expect these guys to be screaming at anyone out on the court. It's just not who they are.
Yeah.
But you asked about Jaylen Brown in particular. Like, I think that he's primed to take off even more. He's gotten better. And this isn't just me saying it. This is objective information. He's gotten better every season of his career. And I think that's going to continue. At some point, you're going to plateau because you can only get so good. But I do think he'll get a little bit better. I think he's going to correct some of the turnover things. And he's not playing for a contract anymore, right? He's got the contract. That means sometimes you can relax a little bit and just be yourself. And I think that'll help him in the long run.
So, Marc, obviously the Suns and Celtics have one thing in common. They both mined the Washington Wizards for a significant piece this summer. I just want to get your thoughts on Kristaps Porzingis and how you see him fitting in with, Tatum and Brown and just the starting lineup in general.
Yeah, again, like I said, it sucks to not have Marcus Smart in Boston anymore because a lot of people refer to him as the heart and soul of the team. But you get to bring in a guy who has been an all-star, and he was an all-star before, and he had the best season of his career last year. And it was like by far. This guy led the league. Or he was second in the league in shooting percentage out of the post. The Celtics have not had a post presence since that first go around with Al Horford when he was a little bit younger. They just haven't had that element on the offense in a good 4 years or so. So you add that element, then you've got a guy who can run pick and roll. Now, this is what I'm imagining, is that Kristaps Porzingis now can go run a pick and roll with Jayson Tatum, and then you've got a guy like Jalen Brown who's on the opposite wing being able to catch it and take it off the dribble. That's what you guys are probably thinking, right? When you put your team together and you've got Beal coming in, a guy who can make plays off the dribble. Durant can already do that. The options are endless when you can bounce around with different positions and you mix Ayton in there. It just makes the options much more. It's a longer list that Joe Mazzulla can now call on when he's calling plays in the fourth quarter. And listen, I don't think the Celtics would beat around the bush. They've had some struggles in the fourth quarter over the last couple of years, including during the playoffs. And I think this is going to help them to be able to mix it up a little bit more offensively, adding a guy who can score both in the post and on the perimeter. And he's a huge threat going to the rim.
It's pretty obvious that the Celtics got better offensively, but are you concerned defensively when you look at Marcus Smart, Grant Williams now gone? Has the identity of this team shifted to more of an offensive team?
I don't think that's the case. I mean, when Joe Mazzulla took over, he definitely brought in more of an offensive mindset while still prioritizing the defense, but he wanted to shake up the offense. And so last year, I think some people might say they were more of an offensive team, but they were still top 5 in offense and defense when all was said and done. I'm not concerned about the defense heading into the season, and here's why. The Celtics have only had, really, Robert Williams, great shot blocker, great rim protector, and Al Horford is certainly a good rim protector in his own right. But they've been so reliant on perimeter defensive ability in this all-switch defense that they've been running for the last handful of years, that if someone does get beat off the dribble, you're playing against a team like the Suns who've got multiple guys who can do that, you might be in trouble. So you flip Marcus Smart, a perimeter defender, into an interior rim protecting big man who's 7'2" and averaged almost 2 blocks per game for his entire career in Kristaps Porzingis. And I think you give a little to get a little, right? And it's gonna shift the defensive identity a little bit, where the Celtics are just not going to have to be as reliant on the perimeter defense, and they're going to have a back line that can help more. So I don't know what Joe Mazzulla is going to integrate with this defense, but I would imagine they're going to switch a little bit less and have those guys like Robert Williams and Kristaps Porzingis hanging in the back a little bit more to be able to protect the rim and force teams to shoot from the perimeter. Again, I don't know that that's going to happen, but if I were the coach, which I'm not, I'm only talking on a podcast right now, but that's probably what I would do. I would give these guys a little bit more opportunity to gamble a little bit, knowing that you've got some shot blockers, multiple shot blockers behind you.
Mark, in your opinion, what is the Celtics' biggest strength, and then what is their biggest weakness this upcoming season?
From a strength perspective, it's got to be overall talent. You've got multiple All-NBA guys leading the charge, and then you add in other All-Stars. You've got great shooting. Derek White was an all-defensive player. So the talent level is certainly there. Experience is another strength. Now, the Celtics have not gotten over the hump, but they've got a lot of experience. These guys have been to 3, 4, 5 conference finals, gone to an NBA finals. They've got the experience there. So I think those are the two strengths. As far as a weakness, I don't know if I would categorize anything as a weakness with this team. They're going to be really good on both sides of the ball, just like they were last year. So I don't know if I would call it a weakness, but I think the one area of growth for them is really just figuring it out, right? Like, this team has not been able to figure it out when it mattered the most in the last 2 seasons. You go up 2-1 in the finals over the Golden State Warriors, you lose 3 in a row. Season over. You go into the conference finals last year against a team that you absolutely should have beat from a talent perspective. You fall behind 3-0 to the Miami Heat. So it's really just putting it all together and figuring it out when it matters the most. We don't know if it's going to happen. We hope it's going to happen here in Boston, but that's the area of growth that I see that they need to take the step in. They got to figure it out.
I have another question, but it's not basketball related unless you guys have one.
No,
I mean, the only other basketball question is just like, listen, a lot of people are already speculating that it might be a Celtics Suns finals this year. If that were the case, and I know that you're a Celtics guy and we're Suns people, but how do you see that kind of playing out?
So here's how I always look at an NBA Finals, right? You've got years where one team is just dramatically better than the other, right? Like it happens from time to time. You know the other team's not going to win. One that comes to my mind was when Miami played Oklahoma, that young Oklahoma City team that was up and coming. You knew who was going to win that series, right, going in. If this happens this year with Phoenix, with multiple Hall of Famers on the roster, playing against the Celtics with multiple likely Hall of Famers on the roster, to me, coin flip. Like, give me a coin, I'll flip it in the air. That's how you're going to decide until they get on the court. Like, I don't think anyone can really predict accurately what's going to happen just because both teams are so loaded going into the season. So I would love to see it. I don't like seeing those NBA Finals where one team is way better than the other. I like seeing two great teams that fought their way into the finals get there and then match up. So I hope that that's what happens. And from there, we just flip the coin and sit back, eat the popcorn, have a couple beers, and see what happens.
I mean, it'll definitely be fun. That's for sure.
That would be pretty awesome. Ironically enough, I was going to say F Boston to end this because I was going to ask you about Winning Time. Have you watched Winning Time, and how did you feel? How does the vibe in the Celtics building after each episode come across? Because 2 of those 7 episodes ended with an F Boston. I thought that was pretty crazy.
Hey, it can end with the F Boston, but it also ended with the Celtics winning the championship, right? So I think if they cut it there, which it sounds like they did, I think everyone in Boston is good and happy, and everything that happened before that doesn't really matter. But yeah, I mean, Celtics, Lakers, I mean, we're not allowed to wear purple or gold in this office. I can tell you that right now, right? It's just not allowed. So we're wearing green, we're wearing black, we're wearing white. And yeah, if the Celtics come out on top to end the series, like, no one in Boston is going to argue with that, right?
That's why he's a pro, man. That was a great answer. Oh, yeah.
Marc, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your insight and all that you shared with us today. Thank you.
No doubt. I appreciate you guys having me on, and hopefully we get that Celtics Suns finals and we can do this again.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Best of luck to you and the Celtics, except for when you're playing the Suns this season.
All right. We'll see you guys in the season.
We'll see you next time.